Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between.
He's a South Texan poppy poet living that hashtag middle class gay life. It's Chibi.
She's a little bit Selena, a little bit J-Lo, and a whole lot of Pisces. It's Rocky.
And this is Words and Shit,
the show where you get to know the person behind the poetry.
Brought to you by Write Art Out.
I love your surprise face every time we start the show. You're like, oh, it's you.
I stay excited. That's why it's always so great to see your face anytime. I know last week I wasn't able to, so this week I'm like, hey friend,
we're back. I love it. And you know what? Speaking of being back, it feels like the world is starting to come back a little bit.
Just a little bit. Just like baby tiny steps. Baby steps.
Yes. We're opening back up little by little.
I love these hand gestures. Like we're opening it up.
We are coming out of, what the panaderia that has been the last 18 months. And part of that I'm seeing, like I live in San Antonio, in Texas, ACL, yes. Like Austin City Limits was canceled last year, but they did it this year with like strict, like you had to have your vaccine card or, proof of like a negative COVID test, things like that, in order to like bring back this festival that's been going on for 30 something years. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it had me thinking like, what was the last festival I attended? So I'm curious, like, and festival, like in broad terms, you were just like people from all over are coming together for a span of days. So like, Rocky, what was the last festival you attended?
Wow. It is so left field. It was just recently, and my cousin in New Jersey, right? Carteret, New Jersey, brought me and a couple of friends to go see Shaggy. Like it wasn't me.
That is just really random.
It was a free concert out in some random park in New Jersey, and then Shaggy's was like, like New Jersey, Carteret, you're the best. I was like, no, Shaggy, no, it's not. But I appreciate the high energy.
And we're talking about, wasn't me.
Wasn't me.
Did he got me in the shower? Wasn't me. Okay. That's Shaggy. You know what? Don't call it a comeback. I don't know. Oh.
How about you, friend? Like, when was the last time?
I was really thinking about it. And honestly, it was 2019 Southern Fried Poetry Festival in Fayetteville. So long ago. And it just like, it made me, I was talking to my therapist yesterday, and we were talking about how my husband and I are going to this festival this week. Mm-hmm. And like, he was like, are you excited for it? Like, how are you feeling about it? I'm like, I am so ready to be around people, and celebrate this thing that is poetry and just come together with like a community of like-minded people and just like spend a week together, and that's what Southern Fried was. At that Southern Fried, our guest today, if I remember correctly, their team just like slammed the entire. I'm pretty sure they won. I'm pretty sure it's in the bio. We do a lot of drinking at poetry festivals, so I may not always remember the details, but I know they were incredible. We were in a bout against them. We were just like, well, I guess this one's yours. We put up a good fight, but in any case, outside of being an incredible poet, our guest today is also the organizer of this week's week-long Stonewall International Poetry Slam Festival. And so I can't wait to like bring him on and just talk about life and talk about what's happening this week. So can we just dive into it?
Yes, please. Go ahead. Go introduce our
poet. Kenneth Something is a poet, playwright, educator, and organizer. However, he is best described as an artivist. Kenneth has been working / creating in the intersection of art and social justice for over 10 years. He is the founder and former executive director of DewMore Baltimore, former executive director of the Pride Center of Maryland, member of the Sons of Baldwin and the LGBTQIA plus spoken word collective, and a professor at the Maryland Institute College of Art. Kenneth is the director of programming for the Black Arts District, which is the organization that is sponsoring this week's festival, and is a 2-time National Poetry Slam champion, 3-time DC Pride Slam champion, 2-time Baltimore Poetry Grand Slam champion, and was ranked 3rd slam poet in the world in 2017. He is the author of 2 books, Bricks and Dandelions, and Baldwin Sent Me. Y'all, in the comment section, you know what to do. Show some love for our guest this week, Kenneth Something. Welcome to the stage.
Hello. This was so fun just watching you all. I didn't even have to join. I could just stay backstage. But if we must, I'm here.
If we must.
Yes.
So you just reminded me that my bio does not say Southern Fried Champion, but yes, Southern Fried and Rust Belt as well. I don't know how I left that out of my bio, but by all means, you feel free to.
Multiple times.
Yes. I definitely do remember you. I think, Kenneth, we even played a game of tic-tac-toe.
That was you.
Yes.
I remember so perfectly. I remember sitting at the table. I remember it.
Yeah, that we kept tying over and over again.
Yes, I remember. I'm mad when I always see the face and I cannot necessarily put it in context. And so I just be like, you look familiar, and you know how that goes. But just now, I remember that so vividly, and I'm so mad that you remembered it before I did.
No, it's okay. I got a different haircut. It's New York has been changing me in my style. I'm a whole different person.
I remember the things you do at poetry slams, right? Tic-tac-toe.
Yeah. I one of my favorite things about this show is, because Rocky's been in the game, but she's kind of been here, and then she was and then she came back. So one of my favorite things is always when poets are oh shit, I do know you. Because she always been here.
Yes. Or they come in, they're just who is this person? Can she talk about poetry? I'm yes, I can. Oh man, but I'm so excited to have you on. I have really great and fond memories of your team. As should be said, that you were just basically just beast mode, just winning. And even on tic-tac-toes, right? And
I met my match or tic-tac-toe.
Look, at least it wasn't a game of spades, because I feel like if you all had played spades against each other, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be friends.
Okay, maybe.
So we always, we start this segment by we know that we're going to be talking about a lot of intimate things and getting to know you. So we see you as a friend here. So I always ask my friends, and I'm going to ask you, how's your heart today, friend? How's your heart today, this week, this month, this year, during this pandemic? Pick one. Which is how's your heart?
My heart is, I have to just speak in the presence, is overly stimulated. And that is a combination of anxiety and excitement and love and curiosity. It is just, and none of it is bad or good. It's just, and I want to say, I say overly stimulated versus overwhelming, because overwhelming has a negative connotation. But overly stimulated feels the same, but it's not negative. It's just there's so much, and I'm trying to process it all at once, and that's where I am right now.
I love that, and especially just because we're at the start of this festival that I can't wait to talk more about. But there's something about being in this space, right, that is just electrifying, right? You feel it in the air, and it's it definitely touches your heart. And I can't wait to get into talking about all the work that you've done to bring this festival to light, and all the work that you've done in your life. We're gonna deep dive, okay? But before we get there, what we like to do is just give the audience just a little taste of who Kenneth Something is, and so we play a game called speed dating.
Okay.
We're going to ask you a series of questions. Feel free to answer as concisely or as in-depthly as you feel is necessary to justify your answer, or don't justify your answer. It's entirely your call. So first question. Because of your illustrious slam career, I want to know, what is your favorite poetry slam memory?
My favorite poetry slam memory.
That isn't playing tic-tac-toe with Rocky, because obviously that's
So this is it's okay. You said I can take it how I want to take it. Okay. So for those who do not know, I have horrible anxiety, right? So slam is really a lot for me. Like, I have to go through rituals upon rituals before I can touch the stage, right? In order to kind of calm my nerves just enough to be functional on the stage, right? And so my very first nationals, which was 2015, my team and I were rehearsing and we were getting ready, and they decided to prepare for semis, and they had decided I was going to do this indie, right? And it was an indie that was very vulnerable, very personal, I'm not quite sure I'm ready for this. And so during practice, a few hours before the slam, I just had a nervous breakdown, like a mini panic attack. And my team was just, not to throw my team under the bus, but my team, they're about business, okay? They didn't have time for my panic attack. They didn't have, we're here for business. Get it together and get ready to do what you came here to do, right? So I was like, and I wasn't here for none of that shit, okay? Fuck that. Can I say fuck on here?
Yes. All words and shit. You can say whatever you want.
So I was like, no, I'm sorry. I'm emotionally everywhere right now. So I ran to a different team who I never saw at all in that festival as far as I was concerned. At first time, they were sitting over just minding their business. I came up to them, I said, excuse me, my team is not being emotionally supportive to me right now. Can you all be emotionally supportive to me right now? And that particular team didn't make it to semis. And so it was one particular person on the team who was like, well, what's going on? I said, I am a nervous wreck right now, right? So they were just so calming and loving to me. And so he was like, you know what? We're going to come to that semis, and we're going to support you, and we're going to cheer for you, and we're going to do all the things. And so we went to the semis, and we got our ass kicked in that semis. And so I didn't feel my best. And then when I got off stage with it, the team was ready with all these drinks for me. It was like, no, we're here to celebrate you. And I was like, no, listen, my team loves me. My team is there for me. But this other team that I was just like, I don't know, like just was there. And this one particular woman was just loving on me so kindly. And it just felt so good. And the reason why that by itself could make my favorite memory. But to add to it, several years later, I'm touring, doing the things that poets do. I find myself in Orlando, and I go to a restaurant, and that woman is the owner of that restaurant. And she's like, it's you. And I'm like, what? It's you. And she was as kind to me on that day as the very first day. And so forever, that will probably be my favorite slam experience.
Wow. That's beautiful. I don't think I've ever heard a story like that, but that's amazing, Oh, wow.
Sometimes the poetry community is just so wonderful. I'm done. That was the whole show. Thank you for coming. Good night. So good. I love it.
It was so beautiful. It was such
Oh, I love it. I think that was I actually really love the answer. And I'm like, all right, well, here goes my second one. Hopefully it's just a great memory too. So my question is, if you could, what song would be the theme song for your life and why?
Oh, okay. This connects back to the slam world. And I told you I have rituals, right? Because of things I already mentioned. And so, all right, and this is really bad. So much been disclosed so soon. All right. I wasn't ready.
Yeah, we need to rename this section. This is not speed dating. This is
not.
seventh date.
I would not get a second date if this was speed dating. Let's be it. People like, that person. It's like, what? The anxiety attacks and whatever's happening. How many drinks did you have after you did horrible on the slam? What happened? All right. But I'm horrible with music. I'm probably the only human that don't really listen to music, right? I'm convinced, right? It's weird. It's really weird. And so I only get music experiences when I'm around other people listening to music. Okay. And I always appreciate it. It's just that when those people go away with whatever music they were playing, I just never hear music again. And so people come back with music.
Wow.
And so there was this one song, and it's like, I Rise, but I think her name was like
Andra Day.
Yeah.
I rise up.
Yes, that's it. So someone played that song, right? This is so bad. No one knows this is my secret that I have no clue about. I pretend that I do around other people, but here we are. We're out here just exposing me. And so that particular song is now a song that I listen to before any competition. And so I don't know much about music, but that would be the song I would say would kind of be the theme song for who I am in my life.
Oh, wow. It's a good song. Great song to choose from.
It is such a good song. The first time I heard that song, I cried like a baby. I was like, I do rise. Oh, such a good song. She's phenomenal. She should have won something for her. She was recently in a Amazon Prime movie about Billie Holiday. I think that's correct. One of those singers. Anywho, sorry, tangent. Next question. I have to call our guests. What is your favorite food dish to eat?
People have those. I'm going to go with some type of seafood pasta. That is my answer. Some type of pasta that has seafood in it. I'm such a person that loves all food equally, right? I do not create hierarchies for food, but I just wanted to have an answer. I have yet to meet the food I don't like. So yes, you put food in front of me, and it's prepared the way it is supposed to be prepared. And I'm going to enjoy it and love it.
But then now I want to know, I know that you're like all food are equal, but do you like more spicy pasta with seafood, or do you like Italian, style? Yeah.
So both of those sound great, but I can't deal with non-American spice. Okay, I can deal with American spicy.
Okay.
Right, 'cause American spicy is pretty mild spicy, right?
Okay.
So American spicy is great. I cannot deal when people are like, no, or other communities, other cultures, when they say spicy, they mean it differently.
Yeah.
It has a different meaning. And I'm not there yet. I have to continue to work on training my palate to be able
to. When I make my mole for you, I should not throw ancho chilies in it.
If they don't grow in Texas, nope.
I'm like, to be like, well, it grows in the backyard, my backyard.
Oh no,
I know, right?
You can't find them at your local supermarket. That
well, that's the thing. Our local supermarket does have it, but probably your local supermarket does not.
I'm in the hood. We don't have chilies. And where I am, we don't have vegetables. So.
Just none. No vegetables.
No.
Nothing that grows. Nothing
okay.
in the supermarket.
All right. So we're going to do our last question.
Okay.
And I know, and usually like we go really in depth, but I'm going to do an easy one. Okay. So what is your current obsession?
My current obsession would be what I feel like it got derailed with SIPs, but I'm thinking pre-organizing SIPs because SIPs clearly is my current obsession. But prior to SIPs, it would be I am currently reshaping my body in a little interesting way. So I'm really obsessed with that. So in the past 6 months, I lost 65 pounds. And I am, into the gym now and doing those kind of things. So like I'm really interested in just sculpting my body differently, and I'm really obsessed with like what that looks like and what that means and how that feels and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really into that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. Well, I feel like all these answers would definitely get you a second date.
Yeah. Yes.
That's good.
Oh, props to you and your journey to achieving your personal body goals. I'm personally growing a dad bod as we speak. It's just continuing to develop, and I'm just embracing it.
I mean, again, and for me, it wasn't. I never not embraced my body. That's not my story. But I got on the scale. The scale said some really mean things to me. And then I decided, well, I'm curious, right? So it's really driven by curiosity. And I was like, maybe I can lose 20 pounds or 10 pounds, whatever. And then I was like, and then. And so like now it's just driven by curiosity. I'm really curious what the outcomes would be from this work and doing this and whatever. So it's just really about exploring something different with my body. Not ever driven out of unhappiness at all.
I love it. And ain't that the nature of a poet, to be curious, right? So with that being said, this was just a taste of who Kenneth Something is. It was a pretty big taste.
And music is great, everybody.
Kenneth does not hate music.
I do not. Whenever I experience it, I enjoy it. It's rare to come across music that I don't enjoy.
Yeah,
it's also rare that I come across music, but the point is that I enjoy
all music is wonderful. All food is wonderful.
Food is way more wonderful though. If I have to put the shoes.
Okay. I love it. Well, before we go even deeper into the world of Kenneth, I think this would be perfect if you could transition us into it by sharing a poem. And for everybody that's watching currently at home in Facebook land or YouTubeville, use the comment section, y'all. Use the comment section, show some love. Interact. Do what you got to do. You part of this conversation, all right? But all that being said, Kenneth, please.
Okay. So, question: is this I'm only doing one poem during this segment?
Yeah, you're only doing one right now. We'll ask for more later.
So it will be more later because I don't want to maybe start with this one. I might want to save this one for later if we're not. I don't know. This one on my heart. I'm just gonna do one on my heart. So we're going to start at the end and work our way to wherever we go.
Okay.
All right. This is my favorite poem right now, everybody. This is my favorite poem. I love this poem. I will not die. Ever. This is not a metaphor. Have you ever wondered what happens when you die? The way the grass forgets a body is there. The way the world forgets it was once somewhere else. I've watched so many Black bodies get put in a box, and I know that America is waiting to watch me rot in the plot too, but I decided not to. Like, who the fuck said I got to? Your gun, your God, your government, fuck a funeral. No matter how greedy the grave, I will not get in. I will smack any obituary that can keep my name out of its mouth. I won't let anyone make a memory out of me. My older brother was stabbed to death. My younger brother was shot dead in the chest, so I know it's only a matter of time before death's hands reach me next. But I promise this ain't a dance the devil wants to do. These bones won't bend or break. I will beat the grim reaper the fuck up if I must, if that's what it takes to survive, to stay alive. Let's face it. Dying is just basic. Every black body does it, and I am too fabulous to be all dead and shit. I got other things to do, so I refuse to lose to death. This country took so much from me, but it won't get my breath. Shit, it's the only thing I got left. It's not much I even like about my flesh, but it's mine. So ain't nobody feeding this faggots, no maggots. I will be here until the earth forgets how to orbit. When I say I will not die, I mean, this body will not be broken open by a bullet. These lungs will not be swallowed by an ocean. When I say I will not die, I mean, you will find me attempting to twerk on the moon long after this corrupt country crumbles. When I say I will not die, I mean, resiliency is a religion, and I am God here. So what is the point of mourning when you be the morning, be the moonlight, the Milky Way, the meteorite, which is to say, what good is a gun against a galaxy? My molecules be made up of music and magic and melanin and miracles and matter, which simply means I matter. So no matter how many diseases or devils you send for me, I will be here forever, like goodness, like glory, like God, like God. Like God.
That was so great. That was so great.
I don't think I was ready for that.
No, I wasn't either. I was just like, wow, that was the end. I don't know how you were going to begin us initially, but I'm excited to see this like trajectory of where you're going to take us.
Well, no, that's what's like. Should I end with that? That's the world I'm in right now. Like that poem really captures my vibe right now. That's my vibe. That's my mood. That's how I feel. It's like it's my own personal. It's like, I don't know if you write poems for yourself. People say they do all the time, but I think that when I became a poet, I was such a social justice oriented poet. So I was always writing for everyone else. I'm writing to make the world better, writing to think of challenge systems, writing to critique narratives, right? Writing to whatever. And I think this particular poem was legit me writing to me. I just love it. So I just like it. It's a poem that inspires me when I perform it. Like I inspire myself consistently with this poem. So I do it often. By often, it's still new, so it's only been like 2 months old. But yes, for the past 2 months, I just been saying this poem to myself.
Oh, I love it though. I do. It's just like it is empowering just to hear from you, to hear from in this. I guess because right now it's like LGBTQ History Month, right? And there's so many layers to what it means to be queer, to means to be a person of color who's also queer, and all these different intersecting identities of how our just society wants to kill us or just wants to have us not be named or just kind of do like violence on our bodies and our soul, right? And it's the fact that we're like, no, we have our history, we are who we are, and we are powerful, and you can't kill us, and I won't want to be killed, right? So important. I think, thank you. And I hope that like that's probably the energy that you're delving into for SIPs as well. We'll talk about SIPs later, later on, but that's what I can imagine. Like SIPs is going to be amazing if that's the type of mood you're coming in.
Yeah. And the poem has me thinking about this idea of like legacy, right? And how we live on, post physical life. I think James Baldwin is just in my head because it was in your bio, but an example of how like someone continues to, like you said, I will not die. Like James Baldwin, even though has passed, continues to live on because of the work that he produced and the impact that work has. And so, like, what do you loaded question, we're going deep. What do you feel your legacy will be, Kenneth?
So this is a thing that the Kenneth in my 20s was obsessed with. right? I was obsessed with the idea of legacy, right? So I have a daughter, and so like, it's in some ways my daughter, right, would be my legacy, right? But then I also created multiple institutions throughout, throughout the world, and so, and with the idea that these institutions will outlive me and continue to be part of my legacy. I've written multiple books and published poems. And the idea that my art would be my legacy, and now I'm not worried about legacy anymore. Like I don't need legacy. Those things may all still quote unquote be legacy, but I'm okay with just living in the moment. And when I'm here, I'm here. When I'm not, I'm not. So I mean, I don't necessarily need to stay. My poem say I'm gonna be forever, but the point is, I'm not obsessed with needing to be remembered or to be known or to be seen. Like I'm not there anymore. Like no, y'all got other people to know and see. Y'all good. Y'all be fine. It's just about living in the right now. My legacy is about today. It's like, what did I do today, and how meaningful and impactful was that? And that's it. So my legacy is captured at 24 hours. It's like every 24 hours, it's like, what legacy can I leave for the next 24 hours?
That's amazing. I don't think anyone's ever talked about legacy just within such a 24 hours, but yeah, that's what you're doing. The work that you do today, it's going to matter, in the future. But I think people are just always looking for the future and above them, but not just for today, right? And today is, I don't want to be all corny. I feel like it's such a cliche. Today is like the president is a present, right?
It's a very Buddhist mentality.
Yeah.
Very Buddhist, very Zen, very no day but today kind of.
And just because you said that, I did practice Zen for 12 years.
See? There we go.
So it does make sense that would be influenced in my answer, but yeah.
Yeah. So talking about, I know your work in general, I kind of want to talk about your artivism, right? Like what drove you in the direction of using art for social justice work, and how, what do you see? I know that we're talking about for today in your 24 hours of legacy, or you're in the future.
So the first one, prior to taking the title as poet, I was an organizer and activist that really worked to address issues and marginalized communities around the country, really. And so I worked for a lot of institutions and organizations that did work around social justice, right? And radical social justice, which is really in the trenches and really with the people and led by people, and right. So that was really important for me. It's a lot of my work. And one of the things that I noticed was how the way apathy would be a stumbling block for communities stepping up and owning the work, right? They would kind of disconnect from the work. They didn't believe it was possible, right? And I watched, this is a story. I went to church, which is great for those people who go to church. I don't typically do that often, but I went this particular time. And I was there different from the other people there. I was mostly curious about the drama of it all, right? And really curious about looking at it and dissecting it that way for this particular time I was there. And I watched the preacher, who was in some ways a spoken word artist for as far as I was concerned. And I was watching the choir and the singers, and I was watching the way art inspired people to just want to be better and do better and live differently and take action. And they were asking people do you want to volunteer for this food drive? People want to go do this. And the whole congregation, everyone was like, yes, I want to be better and do more. So I watched in this space the way art inspired people into action. And I was thinking sometimes people came into this building feeling their lowest, right? And somehow this experience, and I'm not necessarily denying any spiritual, implications in any way. I'm just saying I watched the role art played in inspiring people to want to be better and do better and and help and that kind of stuff. So it made me think differently about my organizing. And so I ended up right then and there quitting my job. Right, the next day I quit. And I said, no, whatever I do, I need to use art. Art is going to be the vehicle I use to like do work in community. So that became, so I created DewMore Baltimore, an institution that uses art as a tool to increase civic engagement in marginalized communities throughout the greater Baltimore area. And so I immediately did that, and it was super successful in imagining the ways in which art can transform the work that and the people to do the work, right? And so that became my artivism. It was like I watched people get inspired in ways that allow them to believe enough in themselves to be impactful. Right? So that's kind of that's the story behind me deciding, no, I want to, no. And then I didn't really write my first poem until 2 years after creating DewMore. So I wasn't even being a poet. I was just believing in art. So it wasn't me using art. It was more so about me gathering artists together. And then I decided several years into that, kind of go be an artist too.
I love that. And it's such a brave step too, to just be like, to have that revelation, be like, no, this is the way we do it. You said something really interesting, you know, like before you took on the title of poet, and then right now you just said like you started all of that and then didn't write a poem until like 2 years later. So I'm curious, like, how did you find poetry, or how did poetry find you, maybe is the better question, you know, that led you to, you know, using poetry and having this illustrious career so far?
So I said the phrase, the title of poet, because I think that people write poetry often and throughout their lives the same way people sing songs throughout their lives. It doesn't make them a singer just because you like to sing in the shower, for instance, right? So I think that my relationship with poetry has been a relationship what people have with singing their favorite songs or doing karaoke. It's like poetry was present in my life, but it wasn't my life. It wasn't my work, right? But what introduced me to poetry is an interesting story. I was from like 4th grade to like 8th grade. I did like these oratory competitions. We memorized a famous speech and you get on stage and da 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 da. And so every single year from like 4th grade all the way up, I just did I Have a Dream speech, right? Because I memorized it. So every year I would compete. I would lose every single year. But I enjoyed doing it. I mean, I never came place nothing, just lost, last place. And so I just consistently kept doing it every year because I enjoyed doing it. And then in my 7th grade year, the school made a decision that people can do original speeches and original poems as part of the competition. And this 8th grade girl got on stage and did an original poem. And it was unlike anything I had ever saw or experienced. I still want to one day find her. I don't remember nothing about her, but like I just want her to. I want to tell the story. I want her to be like, that was me. And then I'm taking her to dinner like every day for a week. But she did this poem. It was an original poem, which it was a spoken word piece, which I didn't know existed at the time. She did this poem. It blew me away. It blew the audience away. And then I had to follow her with this I Have a Dream speech, not taking nothing away from Mari, but I was just like, I don't want to follow her. I don't want to do this. What was that? Right. Yeah. And so for the 8th grade year, I tell this story because it was the moment I fell in love with poetry, in the moment I fell in love with organizing. So for my 8th grade year, I knew that I was going to write my own poem. Like I had to wait a whole year for this moment. So I waited a year and I was going to write my own poem. I knew I was going to do that. And then the school decided to not have the competition.
Stop.
I waited a year.
Stop.
I promise you, my 8th grade year. Then I'm graduating, right? So there's no more chances. This is it. It doesn't go into next year. It doesn't follow me to high school. So it's like, this is it. This is after all these years, and I'm really excited. Like, this is it. And the school just said, yeah, we're not doing it this year. And so I was like, no, you're doing it this year.
You have no idea.
I'm doing it this year.
And so I began to organize. And so I demanded a meeting with the principal, and the principal sat down and met with me, and I made my case and I made an argument. They said, we need to get X amount of people registered. We need to get X amount of teacher support. You have to figure it out if we're going to do it. And so I did. So I rallied up the students to do it. I found the staff support to support it. And after like maybe 10 days of doing that work, they decided it was happening again. Mm-hmm. So it was the first time I think I had to ever activate myself that way, right? Where I was like, no, like the system said no, the system tried to oppress me. And I was like, no to the system, right? And I was like, you're not taking this away from me. Like, what are you doing, right? And so I was really grateful, for the leadership to the school to even give me an opportunity to to not just say no and dismissing, but saying, we don't have the support to make this happen right now. If you can galvanize the support to make it happen, then by all means, we'll make it happen. We'll buy the trophies, we'll put whatever, we'll get everything together. As far as budget is concerned, you just got to get the support and the people. So I really appreciate the school for allowing that process to happen. And just get to the end of the story, because we are all curious. I wrote my very first poem, and I won the competition.
Wow.
And so I knew I loved it. So that was the minute I fell in love with poetry. I fell in love with poetry in that moment. But my art of practice, I'm a visual artist, so my art of practice was visual art. So even though that poetry thing was cool, what I did as an artist was visual art. And so I didn't really think much about poetry until my adult life.
Wow. But the fact that you were writing this poem and waited this whole year to write this poem, the fact that you were organizing in 8th grade, right? Yeah. That is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Beyond years, I think people don't even have that realization or self-awareness that they have the capability. And here you are as an 8th grader, be like, authority, you can't, principal. Oh, you think I have to do all the work? Let me do the work. Let me do it better. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I know that we're going to continue talking, but I think this is a good time just to pause and hear a poem.
Yeah. Another poem, the poem you wrote in 8th grade. No.
Yeah.
I would never. Okay, so following that, I like showing range in my writing. I like not necessarily giving everybody the same flavor. It's really important to me as an artist. I like having range. So okay, here's range. Every rope is a community of fibers brought together to serve a purpose greater than ourselves. So when I was assembled, I wanted to be on a flagpole. I wanted to hold up a symbol of what this country stood for. My greatest fear was being a jump rope. I just thought I would get dizzy from the spinning, but I never became a jump rope. I started on a shelf in a little store when 2 men walked in and purchased me. They threw me in their back seat next to the beer, the shotgun, and the sheets, and we drove to the middle of nowhere. I heard them say the only good nigger is a dead nigger. When we got there, they started to twist my body into a knot, said now my name was Noose. I saw the man they was mad at. He was all black and bleeding and praying. He prayed and prayed so loud, like he was waiting for the sky to just break open for God to intervene. They put me around his neck and tied me to a tree. He kicked and cried and swung. He kicked and cried and swung. He kicked and cried and swung until nothing. There was no God there. just us and nothing, so much nothing. But with the flies as witness, I learned how to pray. Proof that under the right circumstance, even a rope can be religious. It's been 9 days and I'm still praying someone will come to cut him free, even if that means cutting me in half, because this ain't what I was supposed to be. I'd rather be dead than live like this. They say God will never give you a cross that you can't carry, but I don't know if anyone knows how heavy of a cross he is. When I was a symbol, I wanted to be on a flagpole. I wanted to hold up a symbol of what this country stood for. My greatest fear is that it would look like this.
Wow.
That was great. Thank you. Whew. Whew.
Shaking off, I got goosebumps. I'm shaking off the goosebumps from that. Incredible and such powerful work. You know, outside of the powerful work that you personally create, you know, and the spaces that you organize that bring people together to create this kind of work and continue to speak about social justice and all that. You are also an educator, right?
This is true.
You are a professor at the Maryland Institute College of Art. And so I want to know if, like, can you talk to us about like what you teach, but also like what you want to be teaching?
Yes, I can. So I didn't mention in my bio also that I am a manager and I manage artists. And one of my artists has a performance right now on Zoom, and they are waiting for the Zoom link, which I did not send them. So I have to apologies.
We are live, people. That's how we know.
I am sorry, but I have to just present. Like, I just need this to present. Like, it just keep putting me in the meeting. They keep thinking that I am my artist, and it's sad. I'm not.
You are good. You are.
That's okay. This happens like to us. We have technical difficulties. We have dogs. We have people walking behind us. It's great. It's this is the world that we live in.
Our producer Patrick will edit this in post. Pro tip: we don't have a producer.
I know.
We just making it up as we go along, which is fine. No, you do you. The world does not stop spinning just because you know,
work and everything. No, I definitely understand.
I don't know why it won't let me just share it. Like, it's just doing so much right now. I feel like this would be easy. All right, I'm almost done. I just need to push.
It's okay. This is giving us. I'm still decompressing from the last poem. I was like,
yes.
How do we transition back to conversation? Like, can we just like sit with that for a moment? And I think the universe said yes.
Yeah, I think I know, because in my mind I was like, that was like that was such a deep poem that I do want to delve into. It's just always so so interesting to talk about, like, what the United States considers like different, I guess, items and bodies to represent what the United States is supposed to be about, right? And the poem was
and I think going back to the idea of legacy, like that poem definitely lives in the footsteps of a legacy of like someone like Patricia Smith and her Skinhead poem, and just taking these ideas of the persona of like, what is the perspective as which we look at the world, right? We don't always need to look at the world as ourselves. And if we take a moment to change perspectives, how does that unfold layers of a narrative, So yeah, that is, I'm sitting with that. We're gonna sit with it for a minute. Wow.
All right, so I guess I am done with it. I don't know. Like, I don't get why it won't let me copy and paste and put it in her. Like, what's happening is that I keep trying to copy and paste the Zoom link, and it keeps putting me in the Zoom. Like, no, I just want to copy and paste the Zoom link. Okay, perfect. They just fixed it. All right, I'm back.
And we're back.
My artist was just calling my phone and like, I need to be in the Zoom. I'm like, I'm in my own right now.
It's all good. It's all good. We all got lives.
Thank you all for being so flexible and patient.
No, of course.
All right. So remind me of the question.
So the question was about teaching, right? You're a professor at a college. So I was curious, like, what you teach, but also like kind of like, what do you want to teach? Like, what is the curriculum you want to create?
Okay, that's a good question. So I'm currently not teaching this semester, but I teach a graduate program typically. Now I teach a lot of. They give me a lot of courses to teach us, like in the world of literature. And because I'm at an art institution, I teach a lot of creative literature courses, right? So, and I teach part of an MAT program too. So people get a master's in teaching. So I teach a lot of critical literacies as well, for people to kind of unpack some of their biases before they start working with students in classrooms. And I teach like classes around using literature as a tool for your own creativity. And so whereas like visual artists will kind of use literature as a way to like reshape the way they create, visual arts or that kind of stuff. So I teach a lot of very creative literature courses is the way to say it. And so I love it. I love teaching out of the box. It's not really approach. One of my favorite classes, I'm convinced, is just a book club. And I love it. And so I teach a lot of interesting literature courses, but what I want to teach, which I have proposed, or I have yet to get it accepted, is a performance poetry course. And I was actually almost contracted to establish an MFA program at a different college or the university for performance poetry, and I was really excited to develop this MFA program, but that never actually panned out. But so in an ideal world, I'm obsessed with performance poetry, and I deep dive in performance poetry. I think it's a thing that I know more of, both as a theory and as a practice, than anything else. And so I definitely want to develop collegiate programs around performance poetry, which is why I'm writing a textbook currently on performance poetry. And so that the way it could help really inform what that work looks like on both, post-secondary as well as, secondary.
Okay. That's amazing though. I feel like the range, right, of just your profession and what you've been doing with poetry and teaching and organizing is phenomenal.
It's a bunch of past lives. It's a bunch of past lives. Like even the college professor thing is probably about to be a past life. Like I'm not in a hurry to rush back into it.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of bullshit right now in the teaching world. So I am mad at you. But I love that idea of like the textbook on, like spoken word. And I think that just like more and more we're finding ways to give legitimacy to this thing that we call spoken word that is often overlooked in academia. And it's like, no, but this is a real thing because it's making real impact in the world, you know.
It really is. And I also feel like, because it's always so interesting how academia and the elitism are like, no, but spoken word is not, I guess, valid. And it's just like, well, for people of color, we were coming from these like oral traditions, right? So again, it's just another way to say that we're not valid. And it's spoken word is our form of resistance and being subversive in this academia world. So
yeah, I mean, so one thing that so I'm writing this book with two colleagues, Lady Breon and Slangston Hughes, who are teammates of mine as well. And so we're writing this book together. And one of the things that we talk about in the book is kind of like a workbook / textbook / like narrative, right? And so one of the things that we start off with is like really unpacking the way in which we teach poetry and the way that our biases really discourage people from fully sharing this experience with us, right? And so when I say that is, what I've noticed in the world of academia, there are some poetic devices that are more preferred than others based off the institution, how they institutionalize poetry, right? And so, for instance, in a world where imagery is everything, right? It's like, this is what makes good poetry, right? It's the imagery. And then they don't necessarily care too much about, rhythm and rhyme as much as other devices, right? And so what we realize is that the way when you ask people to like organically just tell stories or write poems, they kind of have their own approach to that, right? And so what we've been able to do, and what Stacey Hughes was able to do, is kind of create a framework for that organic way in which people tell stories. And so we were able to like create this framework, which is called the Elements of Spoken Word. And they were able to say that people organically are in one of these places, right? They start from these places. And so instead of being like, this is what a good poem is, and this is better than others, it's like, no, all these ways in which people tell stories are equal, right? And what you need to do is find out from your students is like, how do they like to tell stories? And then help them be the best, do that to the best of their ability versus trying to be a Emily Dickinson or a Robert Frost. It's like, how do you be the best you at storytelling? So that's the framework in which our textbook is approaching. Like, how do you assess the natural gifts from the poet or the student, and then give them the tools to do that better?
I absolutely love that. Please sign me up for a copy when that comes out. And then you mentioned Slangston right now, and I'm going back in my memory, and I just realized we've had you on here, Lady Breon, Metamorphoses, and Black Chakra. I feel like the Baltimore team is like Pokemon, like we got to catch them all.
Yeah.
So we definitely got to get Slangston on here next season. But on the subject of, like giving validity to it and creating space for it. And my smart speaker is talking extensively right now. Sorry. We have arrived at the Stonewall International Poetry Festival, creating something that gives validity, gives legitimacy, and creates space and celebrates. This is a week-long poetry festival specifically for the LGBTQIA plus community. That is the first of its kind, and hopefully not the last. Doing this again for many years. I just want to know, one, like, where did this idea come from? How did this originate, and the planning that led up to it, and then what can we expect this week? Because I'm karaoke happening first of all, but what's going down? What are your hopes for this week? I think is
so the first thing I have to say is that I have to recognize that this festival, the Stonewall International Poetry Slam, is not the first of its kind, right? There have been gatherings of non-cishet artists and poets to share work on local levels and national levels prior to this one, right? What I think makes this different and new is that there are not all slams are created equal. We know that, right? There's some that are just a higher, larger platform than others. And so this is the first time I think we've lifted a non-cishet poetry slam or festival to the top tier of slam world, right? And so meaning that when I was looking to create SIPs, I had to say, well, what are the other organizations or other slams that would be equivalent to this one, right? So I looked at the IWIPs and the Texas Grand Slams and the WALPs, right? And the NPSs. And I was like, well, what does it take to pull that off? And this needs to be equivalent to the top tier slams in the world. And just an example of that was like, I reached out to the organizers and I was like, hey, what does a budget look like for these festivals? Like, what does it take to make this happen? And so I was given numbers, and I'm excited to say that for SIPs, I think the highest number I was given for one of the local slams was like $20,000 to put a slam on.
Wow.
And we raised $80,000 for SIPs, right?
Wow.
And so it was one of those things where it's like, no, this community deserves top tier, like deserves to be at a place of a platform that's really going to celebrate them the way they deserve to be celebrated. And so I think that's not to dismiss the other work from any other festivals or organizers of poets who took time to celebrate, queer poets or trans poets, or it's not that at all. It's just that I would attend other festivals that just were bigger platforms, while those amazing platforms still didn't do the work of celebrating poets like myself. Mm-hmm. So it's like, no, we deserve the best, and we deserve those same platforms. And so that's what's new about SIPS, is that I don't think I've seen a platform this big for poets like us, right? So that is the work. And so what I'm most excited about is it's a combination. It's a combination of things. It's a combination between, and I'm saying some petty too. Three things. I have three answers. One is people having a great time. I just want people to be laughing and smiling and crying if that's how they share their joy. But I want joy in the space, right? Mm-hmm. And that's one thing. I want joy. The next thing is I want community building, right? I want people who don't know each other connecting and growing, and a lot of organic things coming out of it. I just want to see the world coming together again, and watching amazing creatives just be amazing creatives. But the last thing is I want rigorous competition. I want to see your best. I want to see poetry unmatched. I want the final stage to be one of the best final stages that the slam world has ever seen. That's what I want. So I want the girls to bring it.
Well, I've seen the bout list. It's a stacked bout. How many poets? Ultimately, it was something like 40.
Yeah, so 40 poets are competing, and then of course we have amazing side events. So there are about 65 poets all together, 20 competing, and then the other 25 are featuring and doing workshops and all the other kind of stuff.
I love it. Wow. I'll be there.
No, I was like, Chippy will be there. I wish I could go. Like I couldn't, but I know Chippy's been like talking about it and just bragging and really just hyping this festival up for, I don't know, like for what, 2-3 months now, Chippy?
Yeah. It's been coming together. I mean, from when y'all first announced it, I know the organizing part of it has probably been much
longer, sadly. No.
Oh,
not much longer. It was 30 days before from conception to announcement.
Damn. Wow. All right. Well, props to you and your organizations for putting this all together. I cannot wait to experience this week. I am so excited in anticipation. I'm shivering with anticipation. But speaking of the best poetry, bringing the best poetry, this has been a phenomenal conversation, but can you close us out with like one final poem, Kenneth?
I can do that. Let's see. All right. If I was to write a poem where I replace punctuations with people, then Black women would be the period, the enough, the embodiment of I said. Black fathers would be the question mark, but less of the where is he's and more of the why is he missing in the first place. Trans women would be the space, the pause, the thing in between two other things, the moment the world stops to take a breath, literally. And this would be the point when people would debate if space is a real punctuation. Well, in this poem, the answer is fuck yes. Black men would be the hashtag. That part would not change. That part would be the same as every poem that came before it. My grandmother would be the parentheses, the thing that wraps its arms around the things that don't always feel like they are necessary. White men would be the colon, the thing that comes before every list of tragedies. White women would be the karma, as in common, as in overused, as in inserts itself between two things that were doing perfectly fine before it got there, and I would be magically missing from the poem. See, I realized that sometimes I use poetry as a disguise. I go in knowing it's the best place to hide because no one searches for the gender non-conforming person inside the big black guy. I've learned that placing my scars behind my bars ain't healing. No medicine or gauze, is just oohs and ahs. I call it the art of the ahs, meaning if I lay enough golden bricks, I'm certain no one will notice a person hurting behind the curtain. I write windows because I'm afraid of mirrors. Despise my reflection, so I often stand on stage and spit deflections. I talk about how the world is on fire, but don't mention where I hid the matches. I've mastered the art of distraction. I yell, fuck Donald Trump, but don't discuss all of the men I fucked just like Donald Trump. I call out your privilege while expecting the world to remain blind to mine. I find my lines are more device than divine. I talk about toxic institutions, but never my contributions. No solutions. This alluding to more illusions. It's all an illusion. Truth is, every poet is a magician. And every poetry performance is in fact a magic act. What I meant to say was, if I was to write a poem where I replace punctuations with people, then the audience would be in poem.
Wow.
Woo!
What a way to end. I love this journey, this poetry journey that you ended. Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much. That was amazing. That's what this whole conversation has been amazing. Mm-hmm. It's been great to get to know you even more, sharing your work along with your activism as well as your organization and organizing. So again, I'm sadly cannot join you, but I know Chippy is gonna just, if you allow him to hug you and laugh with you in this joyous experience again. So thank you. And
absolutely.
Yeah,
we're going to have a virtual component too. So for people who can't come and be with us physically, there will be at least one component where we will absolutely. You can just reach out to me if you want more information, or reach out to Chippy, because Chippy's going to be leading that component. So we will be able to make sure that people are able to participate and join us virtually as well.
Perfect. Yeah. So thank you again. I'm excited. Good luck. Not even that you need luck. Have a great time. Really bask in your work and the joy that everyone's going to bring, because they're going to bring their A game, like you said, for this festival. And to close out, can you just tell the people where they can find you and your work on the social medias or on the website or internet?
Yes. So I'm Kenneth Something. You can find me on Instagram, which is my preferred way because I'm trying to boost it up. I didn't care about it for many years. Now I'm finally starting to care about it for the past 6 months. So follow me there. Just Kenneth Something. You follow me, send me a DM. I will respond. I will follow you back. And we can definitely build from there. So just Kenneth Something is the best way to connect with me.
Absolutely. Love it. Thank you one more time, everybody, in the comments section for Kenneth Something. Again, what a phenomenal conversation and great getting to know you. And I will see you this week all over Baltimore.
I'm excited.
Thank you. Oh, Rocky.
Chibi. Oh, man.
And this is why I love this show. This is why we created the show. The idea that we know poets works, but do we know the poet? And I feel like we really, really got to know Kenneth so much more, which makes the work so much more impactful and just kind of really connecting poets with communities across this country. And I can't wait to be in community with all these poets that are coming into Baltimore for this. So yes.
No, I'm so jelly. I'm work. But I'm so glad you'll be there. I know I'll be there in spirit. Fantastic. If this for anyone, everyone that's watching, this is just a taste, right, of what is to come if you're gonna go to SIPS. you know you're going to be surrounded by phenomenal poetry and even more amazing poets, what they do for the work in the community. And we're going to be hosting a little segment there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know there's a karaoke night that I need to get to, so let's say some things and bounce.
All right. So thank you to the audience for y'all to chime in every single week. We love you. We see you. Thank you. We couldn't do the show without you. So thank you for your comments. Thank you for the love. Thank you for shouting out for Kenneth, to our poets all the time. Mwah. We love you.
And make sure to stay connected, stay informed of all the things that we are doing. Please follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is @wordsandshh.
And you can watch any past episodes on our YouTube page or anywhere on YouTube, as well as anywhere you find your podcast. You can watch or listen to this episode or previous episodes. So check us out.
Yeah. And next week, I'm so excited for this. So our guest next week, we are actually hosting an event at the Stonewall International Poetry Slam. We are going to be filming live at the event and featuring a friend of the show. She's been on here before back in season 1, but we're bringing her back because so much has happened in the past year. Icon will be on the show next week. Super excited for that. So we will see you then. If you're in Baltimore, swing on by Stonewall International Poetry Slam, and hopefully we'll see you there. Until then, stay safe out there, people.